Well, I have another HMV-102 on my workbench today. And this one, little by little we're going through it. We got to do a little bit of repair here and there on the rexine. In case anybody want to know what an HMV-102 horn looks like, there you go. That's the horn. A folded tin horn. That's where the magic happens. And that's the motorboard. Now this one is post 1934, not quite, probably not past 36. Still has the bumpers on there. We had an issue with, and I will find it, the motorboard. The motorboard, while the machine itself doesn't have any structural damage, all the metal, as you can see, is in good shape and really doesn't show signs of rust. And there's the motor. Has a nice 5A reproducer, which hasn't split. This is what I found when I opened up the motorboard. We are split in two places. Numerous spots where the veneer is lifting. Not in very good shape. Over here even. Don't know how it happened. I suspect, and you can see how badly warped it is here. I suspect they must have had this out of the machine at some point a long, long time ago by the look of things. And broke it. And it was kind of wobbly in there, and the turntable was rubbing stuff. And I'm like, well, time to hit the parts bin and see what I can dig up. Well, I did manage to find one in one of my parts machines that apparently this machine had been red at one time. Unfortunate, because red is one of the most sought after colors in 102. But this one had been stripped of its rexine and painted black on the outside. And they stripped, I noticed, had the fabric on the motorboard. They stripped it off. I don't think they refinished. I guess underneath the fabric, it must have been already finished. Surprise. And it appears to be, it's plywood. That's all this is. This is plywood. And it's not particularly thick plywood, so if you abuse it, it will break. And I guess on that one, someone did. And on this one, it survived and was close enough in year, almost exactly the same age, actually, to have the bumpers and all the brake and all the stuff that I needed. So, and on the back of this, you can see red. They must have put that on in the factory when it was new. But at least I have the parts. Better than not having anything or trying to fix that. That is never going to be right. I could tinker with it for 100 years, but it's always going to be warped and split. It's not like hardwood, where you can drill a few little dowels and put two pieces together. That plywood is a lot more difficult to work with, especially veneered plywood. It is just, when it breaks, it's done. It's done. And this is the motor. Let me tell you what, this motor was a real mess. It's a 271D. That's what should be in there. This is one of the ones that was just solidly locked up. No movement. Not the governor, not the spring. It was just locked up tight. The old lubrication was like cement. I had to take the spring out, of course, dump the spring can, the springs, and a few other parts into gasoline and leave it in there for 4 days before that stuff loosened up enough that I could scrub it off. And I did have to scrub it still. And I finally got it off. Just old, graphite, and I guess it must have been a whale-based lubricant, I'm guessing. Because I don't usually run into petroleum-based lubricants that do this. Just turns to stone. Like old rubber. It just turns to stone. But now we're good. Now we're running. Here we go. There she goes. She fires right up. Don't want to get too close. There might be some oil flying off of there. And there we go. She's spinning again. She's live again. Well, I had to work for this one. That's for sure. I knew this was likely to be a problem when I bought this machine about 4 years ago. And, well, it wasn't, like moldy or showing signs of dampness or anything like that, which is why I'm surprised that motorboard had so much veneer lifting. Because really the rest of the machine shows no sign of dampness at all. All the metal parts, there's no rust on them. They're good. I haven't cleaned any of that metal. That's exactly the way it was. It's still nice and shiny. And this, let me get the reproducer, and then the tone arm's right there. You see there's no issues with that. His Master's Voice 5A. Now 5A is a pot metal, and it occasionally does give problems. But this one, even the rubber on the isolator is still pliable. I'm really surprised. This is in excellent shape. One of the best 5As I've ever seen. Because usually they have issues. They're cracked, they're damaged. We'll see how well it plays when the time comes. But that's the 5A in nice condition. Even the needle bar is pretty well lined up. So put that aside. And I'll have to reassemble it. There's no loose joins in the case. The case is solid. Don't really have to do anything there except clean it up, scrub it. It's got a lot of yuck on it. Years and years of built-in grime, and who knows where it was stored. Some attic probably, and it just loaded up. So we have to clean that. Try to revitalize that rexine a little bit. Bring it back out the way it should be. Make it look nice again, and I have no doubt it'll play just fine. The motor's working nicely now. And where's the turntable? Somewhere in here. The turntable is a little dirty, but that will clean up. I can clean that up. Well, actually, I'm not going to clean that up. I just noticed. That is definitely not original. Somebody put that on there. The color's a giveaway anyway. Didn't do a very good job. So we're going to have to get some fabric and recover that whole turntable properly. That is some really rough scissor work there. You know, I'm no great seamstress with the scissors either, but I do a better job than that. We'll get it done though. We'll get it taken. Actually, you know what? Because of that grommet there, I'm going to guess they lifted that whole fabric, that whole felt right off another phonograph, who knows what, and they stuck it on there and just kind of trimmed it to size so it would fit. Otherwise, that grommet wouldn't be pressed in there like that. Huh. Never know what you're going to find when you work on these. You know, there's always something. With the Electrolas, it's always an adventure to see what they've left inside the case. You know, sometimes you go in there and you'll find old instruction manuals, needle tins, and record brushes are a big one. I found 2 or 3 record brushes because you tip up the motorboard on the Victor and things can slide down into the recess underneath while you're greasing the motor. You don't notice, you close it back up again, and it's there for 1,000 years. Once I found a business card for the dealer who sold the machine. Thing was this huge thing like this, old-fashioned thing from 1918, 17, something like that. You never know. See, and the same thing goes with these ones. You know, you could find needles in there and oddball little bits of hardware that don't belong there. And there's always something. That's a whole side collecting thing of itself. Let's see that thing spin again there. There we go. Fires, whoops, and fires right up. That's what you like to see. No hesitation. She just fires right off. And the spring is in surprisingly good condition and does not appear to be an original one. It's the second time. Second time in a row I've taken apart an old 102 that really obviously hasn't been apart for a very long time. And I have found a replacement spring. And the spring's in excellent condition. There's lots of, well, spring to it, you know. No issues. It shouldn't have any problem playing. I guess maybe the original, well, I know the original springs in these weren't all that great. I found enough of them that had to be replaced outright because they were just too weak to play records properly. I had to import them all the way from Europe and put them in. Several machines, some of which I no longer own, a few I still do. And it's time for me to get some more springs. So I was kind of hoping this spring wasn't bad because I don't have any more new ones left. And they're kind of expensive to import them. But I think we're okay with this one. Motor's all nice now, but let me tell you what, that's probably, all told, over 4 days, probably about 7 hours of scrubbing here and there, half hour here, half hour there, just coming out, agitating the gasoline a little bit and scrubbing it here and there. I mean, a spring is a lot of surface area to scrub, and you have to start at the very end and just work your way 1 inch at a time, both sides, all the way to the end, and then hit the part you can't reach too well at the very end of it with a tiny brush to get all that crud out. And we managed it, or I managed it, and there we go. You see the 102 in pieces. Next time you see this machine, it will be playing. But it's hot and humid, and I'm tired, so you're not going to see it tonight. There you go.